brings us to our guest today, the Swami Yogeshwarananda, and I am so pleased to have you with us, and I welcome you.
It's nice being here.
This is exciting for us because this is the first time we have had an expert on Eastern philosophy come and visit with us. And I thought, first of all, since our audience perhaps has not had this experience before, you might explain to us your title of Swami and also your name, Yogeshwarananda.
Well, when an individual in India goes and leads a spiritual life, then in course of time he becomes a monk in due course. And when he becomes a monk, automatically he gets the title of a Swami as well. Then, as far as my name is concerned, Yogeshwarananda, you can break it up into three parts: Yogesh, Yoga, Ishvara, Ananda. Yoga means the science of yoga, which involves the union of one with the divine. Ishvara means the lord of the science, or the master of the science of yoga. And Ananda means bliss. He who blissfully revels in the science of yoga and is a master of it is what is implied by the name Yogeshwarananda.
Oh, okay. Now, also, in reading a little bit about your background, your study began when you were 20 years old. And tell us just in general, what was your study, your lifestyle, and so forth that brought you into this awareness as a Swami?
Well, I was a truth seeker, and I decided to leave for the Himalayas, by the grace of God, of course. And the inner calling was there. And I went to the Himalayas to lead a spiritual life. And so that the purpose of human existence could be eventually realized and met with. And that is to realize your divine nature, which is within each one of us.
Well, Westerners still are going to the Himalayas, so that is a very sacred area. It is a very special area. I mean, is that why that it is the choice of the truth seekers to go to Nepal or the Himalayas?
Yes, in fact, the mountains always beckons to the highest spirit in man. And apart from that, the Himalayan mountains has been the place where traditionally great many Indian yogis and mystics had been there and lived there and led a spiritual life, an ascetic life. So naturally, anyone who is interested in leading such a spiritual life very earnestly would naturally go to the Himalayan region and live amongst the Swamis and live this way of life.
Now, there are then now many holy men who are studying there and who are meditating and who are contemplating. So this is still the center of the Eastern religions, would you say, or is this Hindu?
Yes, primarily in on the Indian side of the Himalayan mountain. It's mainly the Hindus who are there, the Hindu monks and the Swamis who belong to the Hindu religion, and they are spread and scattered all over, mainly along the banks of rivers like the river Ganges, the river Yamuna, and so many others. But they are also scattered all over India, and you find a good many holy men spread all over India.
Do you find holy women? Are there women who are also studying this same path?
I would say that there are a good many of them who are nuns too, which is the counterpart of the Hindu monk, the nun.
Is a nun.
The sannyasini. Sannyasi means a Hindu monk. Sannyasini means the woman who has become a nun, a Hindu nun. And there are a few of them, and their hermitages and ashrams are also scattered all over India. In fact, always in the Indian society we have had a good many women who had realized their God nature, or who were mystics, and who were respected and revered in India for that purpose, even as late as the the last 10 years, or just before 10 years ago, there were quite a few of them who were well known.
Yes, I had studied in Southern California a little in the Siddha Yoga, and the Muktananda had been the leader of the Siddha Yoga, and now it is a female, the Guru Mai. But one thing you had just mentioned and touched upon, not only the beauty of the mountains of the Himalayas, but also the rivers. And I understand that the rivers are also felt to be very sacred and are given women's names in India, or they have a feminine gender to them, should I say?
Yes, the rivers do have.
And they are sacred, and there is like the blessing of the waters if you go to the waters.
Well, in a sense, yes. But more than that, I would say that every spot in the world is sacred.
Oh, yes.
And certain places even more so.
Yes. When you speak of the mountains, I think of even our North Carolina mountains, and we're so looking forward to visiting there. The mountains are beautiful, and the mountains are wonderful wherever we are. Yes.
So wherever one has got a character of sanctity, every place is a sacred place in the world, and every being is sacred indeed.
Well, we will be continuing to talk about your understanding and some of the information you can share with us on some of these topics that the Westerners have just been learning, as far as reincarnation, a little bit about astrology, karma, some healing. But right now it is time for us to go to commercial. So when we come back, we will be asking the Swami more about the traditions of his training. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hi, and welcome back to Star Talk. I'm Georgia Shakti Hill, and our guest today is the Swami Yogeshwarananda. And I had just mentioned to him that, before we went on break, that I'd like to know more about his training. And as he informed me, it is not training that one goes through to become a monk, but he is a teacher, and in that sense, we are his students, because he is here in Southwest Florida this weekend and has planned a schedule of classes where he is sharing his information. He will be at CEL, the Center of Eternal Light, tonight at 7:30, and that's on Hancock Bridge Parkway. And he will be with us tomorrow on Fort Myers Beach from 1 to 3:30, and we would love to have you join us if you are available and you can come down to the beach. And again, on Sunday night, he will be at the Center of Eternal Light in Cape Coral. So, although you will not be training us, you will be teaching us, you will be sharing your information, and your own knowledge did not come then from a teacher or from training. How would you explain it?
Well, initially each person has got some amount of knowledge with him, a level of understanding.
Okay.
So equipped with that, he goes into and begins to lead a spiritual life. Now, as he keeps on living that way of life, he acquires further knowledge and further knowledge processes as to how to go about leading a spiritual life and a way of living. It comes by and by. During the course of one's religious or spiritual life, then if one wishes to, and if one is earnest and interested, one could attend various classes which are held at various places, at various ashrams, or by swamis who live in small huts. When I use the word hut, the concept of a hut in India is a shack. So a swamis generally live in a little shack, and that itself is a grand hut for him. That's a shelter for him, and he may hold classes in his hut. And also there are other swamis who belong to bigger institutions who may have classes there. So one goes to these places and goes through a process of, shall we say, scriptural knowledge training, or a series of scriptural classes, and acquires knowledge in the scriptures. And
the scriptures are the Bhagavad Gita?
Well, the Hindu scriptures as such, Bhagavad Gita is one. The other is the Upanishads.
Yes.
Then thereafter we have the Brahma Sutras, which is a logical explanatory commentary which explains the subject matter contained in the Upanishads, which is a mystic revelation. And then there are many other texts which are written by mystics. And these texts go to expound and make clear the basic subject matter contained in the Upanishad, the Bhagavad Gita, and bring it out into a system of thought, like the Vedantic system of thought.
Okay.
So, as a result of it, this study is very comprehensive, wherein the original text is there, and then you have a commentary on the original text, like the Bhagavad Gita, and then you have commentaries upon the commentary, and then there are 4 or 5 commentaries upon a commentary. So the process is very complicated and takes a great deal of time and patient study.
Now, do you choose then, or are you chosen by the particular, guru that you would follow his philosophies or his teachings more? Is there then one?
In fact, to tell you the truth of the matter, it is not that we are interested in the gurus. We are interested only in the teachings. And if a guru has got a particular brand of teaching, we are not interested. We are interested only in the knowledge which is originally revealed to mankind as a revelation, which is the basis of knowledge. So a guru stands, if he is well versed in the original mystical revelation, and bases himself on that. Not that something which he has coined out of his own
Okay, so you want him bringing the information from the ancient teachings, from the mystical teachings,
yes,
just through him, not changed.
That's one aspect.
Okay.
The other aspect is, if the guru happens to be, I'm using the word, an enlightened soul who is a great mystic, then out of his own mystical experience, the truths of life come out. So his words are words of truth indeed. If one has such a guru, then one indeed is very fortunate. But invariably, in India, though many pass off as gurus, but very few really are competent to be gurus.
Now, is the word guru translated to teacher too simplistic, or
Yes.
is that?
It is too simplistic to use the word teacher.
Okay.
In fact, a guru is one, a real guru is one who shows you the way, who shows you the way as to how to get enlightened, how to realize your God nature. And that is his sole purpose, to show you the way. And to become his disciple is incidental. He can show you the way even if you are not his disciple. So it is not that you are to be his disciple for him to show you the way. You don't have to be his disciple. So long as you are a truth seeker, a person who wants to realize the truth of life, which is God, you are open to teaching, and you receive the teaching from him, from the guru, irrespective of the fact as to whether you are his disciple or not. It is immaterial.
You will get the information.
You will get the teaching.
Well, you know, when I have been taught that when you are in the presence of an enlightened being, that almost by osmosis, you receive some of the information. It's like just to be in the presence of an enlightened one, you get a little bit of enlightenment, or your own spiritual path is enhanced. Is that kind of...
Well, in a sense...
I'm approaching this from a Westerner's perspective, as I told you.
In a sense, if you are in the presence of a great man, his very presence is comforting, it is inspiring, but nevertheless, perhaps some of your psychological problems may get resolved mysteriously, but on the whole, you yourself will have to make the effort to get enlightened and to realize your God nature.
But it's a little easier in the presence of an enlightened one.
I wouldn't say it is a little easier.
Okay.
All that perhaps his presence may inspire you to get enlightened, and his overall watching and the spiritual care of you may be there, which may help you. But invariably, many of these great people do not have that many disciples. They just have very few disciples, maybe 2, 3, just a few of them, few disciples. But it seems as if today, in the current world, that it is a fashion for the disciple to have a guru and for the gurus to have so-called disciples. And it's rather intriguing and interesting that you can always know the more the disciples that the guru has, the less of a guru he is.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well.
It's an ego trip which the so-called guru is playing in the world. And if people think that they can go and discover a guru like discovering something in the world, in fact, I read an interesting book which was written by an English woman called Hunting the Guru in India. And the very word hunting, because that is what people do. They want to go and hunt for a guru.
Okay.
And that doesn't solve the problem at all. If one gets a real guru, one indeed is fortunate, wherein you get to know the way. That's the purpose of the guru. The guru means he who shows you the way and he who takes care of you in your spiritual path, in your spiritual movement. He protects you and guides you in that. That is a guru. But a real guru will not allow you to be psychologically dependent on him. Just because you have got a guru, it doesn't mean that everything is over. No, that's the very beginning. And you have to make the effort, all the effort on your own.
Okay. Well, I still want to get into some of these intriguing aspects of the Eastern philosophies that the Westerners were introduced with. I think first with like the Beatles when they went to India, and of course our wonderful Shirley MacLaine as she has traveled and studied too. But right now we will go to commercial and we will come right back and we'll have more questions for the Swami. Stay tuned. Hi, and welcome back to Star Talk. We've been speaking with the Swami Yogeshwarananda and about the path to enlightenment. And you know, our purpose in Star Talk is to bring information to you, so hopefully you will become more self-aware and self-empowered, and hopefully you also will travel down your own spiritual path toward enlightenment. I had asked the Swami if he might just address some of those areas that we study in the Western world with a lot of interest, and sometimes thinking that we also are sharing some information from the East. Tell me about working with dreams, and what is your perspective on that? Are dream time and information that we can get, or is it helpful for us to work with our dreams? What is your understanding of dreams?
Well, we would deal with the dreams from a comprehensive perspective. There is a dream when you enter into a dream state and get into sleep, and dreams do occur. Now that dream is an indication that perhaps even the waking world that you're experiencing could also be another type of dream. And in reality it is so. Though you know not the waking world that you're experiencing is a dream, just as much as when you are in a dream state. To you, the dream experience seems to be so real. And only when you wake up from the dream do you realize that that it was after all only a dream. But when you are in it, it seems so real and so true to you. In the same manner too, in the waking state, the waking experiences that one has, and the waking individual and the waking universe, also is said to be another waking dream, and waking up from this waking dream is called enlightenment.
Okay. Okay, so that is waking up from the big dream.
From the big dream.
The big dream, okay.
Which is a little more lasting.
Yes, okay. And that awakening is called enlightenment. Now, I want to address the topic of astrology, because I have spent just a few years studying astrology. I think it takes a lifetime of understanding, but the more I learn, the more I find validity or truth in it, or it is a tool that I use in my life. Now, you mentioned astrology as a science. The Hindus, or the people of India, I think have been studying it for so many centuries. They're very, very good at it. How would you define it, or how would you say it could play a role in someone's life?
Yes, in fact, astrology is an exact science, provided one is a good astrologer. And everything in the universe moves very precisely. And just as for the individual, it's his macrocosmic counterpart is the universe around him. And things which occur in a man's life could be related with the planetary movements in the system. And this science is called astrology. So there's nothing arbitrary in the universe. Everything is so precisely fixed, and the movement is so corresponding that the individual's life pattern corresponds with the movement of the cosmos around him. So astrology is a science wherein, through the movement of the cosmos around him, the planetary system, the individual's character patterns and the type of life experiences and the life in a general sense which he could go through are correlated. So therefore the study of astrology certainly does and would indicate to an individual as to the course and the movement of his life in this present incarnation. Then in a practical sense too, in India, in Eastern countries, many of the good things of a man's, or important things of a man's life, are done in accordance with astrology. In fact, even marriages, which is a very important institution in a man's, in a human individual's life, in fact, they match the respective astrological charts of the boy and the girl, or the young woman and the woman and the man and the woman, and there should be a certain amount of agreement on certain salient features, and if they coordinate, then it is said that marriage would be harmonious. So that harmony is on various levels: emotional harmony, mentally, physiologically, also where it's found whether the two persons are going to be compatible. So that in a sense there is no need for individuals to go into a situation of pre-martial affairs to find out whether they are compatible. The astrology itself will indicate. So it's a very beautiful science, and if that does not agree, the marriage is not permitted.
So that is why then some marriages are pre-planned by the families,
That's
because
right.
they can use the astrological
charts. So through the astrological charts, they look into all this, whether they are going to be compatible, whether they are going to be psychologically compatible, whether they are going to be physiologically compatible, and I find that in practice it works. It did work. So the proof of it is in the fact that it has worked.
Yes.
So there is a great deal of truth in this, and this is the good use of astrology.
Yes.
And then also in Indian tradition, good important events are to be set on auspicious days. So they look into astrology and time the auspicious occasions wherein certain important events of a man's life could be fashioned or programmed.
Now, looking at astrology, is the concept of reincarnation just an outflow or a result of the understanding of astrology? Does one look at astrology from a perspective of reincarnation, or do you address those separately?
Well, that's a little separate, but astrology would be correlated with the aspect of a man's destiny.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, the destiny
It's the destiny
aspect.
of a man. So there are two things. One is destiny and free will on one hand.
Yes, that was the next
In what
question.
way are they correlated? And the other is astrology and destiny on the other hand. Of course, the astrology and destiny go together. In fact, every man's life has been destined. Destiny means, what is destiny after all? Destiny means the series of life experiences and the events of his life which are to occur for a man from the moment that he is born till he dies. The series of life experiences which are going to occur to him is said to be the destiny of his life.
All right, so those are destined from the time he is born, the occurrences.
The occurrences or the events and the life experiences which he is to have is said to be the destiny of each man's life.
And our free will enters at what point?
The free will is they are all true. What is free will? Right now, I'll explain it in this manner. Right now, we are here discussing these matters. We are here because we are so destined to be here discussing it. Now, this is destiny. But we couldn't have been here if we had not previously made our choice to be here. So we agreed to be here, which was our choice, and made an effort to come here out of our own free will, you to be here and for me to be here. So we exercised our free will, given the having used the choice, and the outcome of that was the free will indeed, and we came here. So the free will that we exercise works in accordance with our destiny.
Okay. Now, what
it is
about
not something independent of destiny.
is that I look at free will from the perspective of the destiny. If the events are planned, our choice in how we respond to them is our free will. Is that along the same line? Like the event is destined, our response to it is our free will?
No.
Okay.
In fact, we do not know what the event is going to be.
Okay.
You are going to cross the road. You do not know that you're destined to be knocked down by a car as you cross the road.
Okay.
Okay. If you had known that, you wouldn't cross it.
No.
So, when you're crossing, if you happen to be knocked down, well, that is your destiny to be knocked down. So destiny, you only get to know what your destiny is only when it occurs,
Okay.
when the event is taking place. So that's the beauty about it. And that's the charm about life, because if you had known what your destiny of life is going to be, you don't want to relive your life over again.
Point well taken.
So therefore, it is in a way good for a man not to know in precise detail as to what his destiny of life is going to be. In a general sense, you may be curious to know, but not in specific detail.
Okay. So that's one of the things I want to talk about when we come back, is the psychic aspects to all of this, and looking into the future, and just how we sort of play these games with psychic abilities. We'll be right back with more from Star Talk. Please stay tuned. Hi, welcome back. We do have the Swami Yogeshwarananda with us, and he is a lecturer. He has lectured at many universities throughout the United States. He has authored a series of books, two of which I have read, The Divine Virtue and The Holistic View of Life. He'll be sharing information both tonight at the Center of Eternal Light and also tomorrow with us at the Café du Monde on Fort Myers Beach. We were into this discussion of predestination and the occurrences in our life, and we just can't quite leave it yet. If you want to just embellish that a bit before we get into reincarnation and some of the psychic abilities, what would you say as far as these the occurrences in our life as they are predestined?
Yes. In fact, as I said, destiny means the series of life events and experiences which have already been schemed out for each individual. Now the blueprint of it, or the scheme and the plan has already been set in motion for each individual in the world by the Creator. And as per that blueprint and the plan which has been worked out, the individual's life automatically clicks and falls. That is why the world is a cosmos and it is not a chaos. It is not a chaotic state. It is a beautiful cosmos. Everything takes place according to its own rhythm. And this is the rhythm of life set in motion based on certain factors in an individual's life, so that the whole world moves in a very smooth rhythm and pattern. It unfolds itself. Each man's life unfolds itself as time goes by, as per the original blueprint or the scheme set out for man.
Now, astrologers look at the natal chart to see what that blueprint is.
That's right.
Now, as far as reincarnation, the concept that we are allowed or that we can come back until we do it right. As we come back, we are learning more lessons and we are becoming a higher spirit, and we are learning more and we are sharing at a higher level and so forth. Tell me about reincarnation from the basic teachings.
Yes, there is a reincarnation.
Okay.
The human individual, the so-called soul, it reincarnates from one life to another life, and during each life it experiences life and acquires learning and growth, psychological growth, emotional, mental, and eventually the combination of all this is a spiritual growth. So in each lifetime it grows and develops and evolves. So therefore there has to be a need for a series of lives for this individual soul to grow and eventually attain to its maturity and then having matured to realize its divine nature. So therefore there is reincarnation. As for instance, a good example would be that a child prodigy, we use the word a child prodigy, a genius, who has got, like a Mozart, who was a genius as far as music was concerned. He was able to compose music. Now where did he get that capacity to do that? Of course, in his previous life, in his previous incarnation, Mozart was a trained and practiced musician, and that capacity naturally came to him at a young age. He was accomplished and trained previously itself. So that is how a child prodigy's capacity is to be explained. So each individual is like that. Each individual is unique. He has got his unique nature, character, his unique inclinations, and all these character formations, the nature which he has, is something which he had acquired and developed in his previous lives, and this life is a carryover.
Now, should then we, in each incarnation, should we then be better than we were in the previous
Yes, certainly.
incarnation?
Certainly.
Okay. And when we refer to old souls, they talk about that in reincarnation. Are all souls the same age, or
No.
okay?
At different times, the souls keep on coming. And an old soul is a soul which has matured and is now ready for the final state of its life, which is to realize God.
One of the things that you talked about in the tape that I got to listen to was the yoga of action, and it differentiated between the holy man who could devote his whole life to his spiritual path, who might be the Swami and who could be in the hut in India, and then most of the people who are on a spiritual path and who are working toward enlightenment, they have to be involved in the yoga of action, and that is the day-to-day living and the search for enlightenment combined. Now, one of the things you said was the yoga of action precedes the non-action, so that would be like in an earlier lifetime we might.
Exactly.
So we can, but we would be in the world and working day to day, doing the dishes, and we would be.
That's right.
Going out and earning a living.
That's right. In fact, a life of the inner spirit, you may call it a spiritual life or the religious life, could be lived by two types of individuals having two different characters and dispositions in two different ways. There could be an individual aspiring to lead a spiritual life who is mature, who is psychologically mature, emotionally, mentally, and who has no further desires and inclinations of achieving something in the universe. But at the same time, this person has got a strong desire to realize his God nature. Now, such a person could afford to withdraw from active life, from active society, become a recluse and lead a contemplative life either in the forest or in monasteries or in ashrams. So that man is competent for that. He has become calm in nature, very serene. He is calm because he has very little desires. He has nothing to achieve in the world, no ambitions, but at the same time, he is desirous of realizing God. So such a person could withdraw. While the other people, majority of the people in the world are those people who have got things to do in the world, who have got responsibilities, who have got desires to be fulfilled, who have got things to achieve, who are interested in still living life. Now these people should live in the world, should lead an active life in the world, go through their normal life, the lifestyle, but at the same time they should so live that life in such a manner, they should so live their life and go through their series of actions in such a manner that it facilitates them in their quest, in their also longing to realize their God nature. So for these people, action should be converted as a yoga of action, and that is called the science of karma yoga. And in this, generally, life itself is a ritual. Every action that you do is a ritual. A ritual is something which is sacred, which is sanctified action. When an action is so done, then that action releases an individual from human bondage. Generally, people imagine that perhaps a ritualistic action done in a church or in a temple is sacred, and all the other actions done in the world is secular.
Now,
but it is not so.
I had been told that one should even make their bed at home to such perfection that it is like a sacred ritual.
It is a ritual. Every action that a person does is a sacred act and is to be treated as a ritual indeed.
With a
Making the bed
consciousness.
with all your consciousness, very calmly, without being in a state of hurry or anxiety, very peacefully one should go about performing and executing all one's actions and functions in the world without egotistically moving about, without a sense of ego coming in, that I have done, that I have not. So without that ego coming in, and without being concerned of the fruits of or the results of those actions, one is only concerned of the action. The bed is to be made, and it is to be made well. And the matter is over. The food is to be prepared. The mother prepares the food for the family, and it is to be done. With that, the matter is over. The work in the office is to be done, and with that, the matter is over. So one is concerned of the action, and not of the results or the fruits of action.
Yeah.
And when action is done in this manner, very peacefully, that is called the yoga of action, which releases an individual.
Well, one thing I liked was often we're tempted, some of us who are working in this, to go to the mountain, and we think that maybe it's time to go to the retreat. And what I liked was your measurement of how you know. If you are busy and if you are doing a lot of things, and if there's any doubt in your mind that it's not time to go to the mountain, you're
right.
supposed to be participating in the yoga of action. It's time for us to take a break, and when we come back, we will talk more with the Swami Yogeshwarananda. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome back to Star Talk. This afternoon we are approaching our show a little bit differently. We have had so many questions for the Swami Yogeshwarananda that we have devoted the whole program to that. I want to remind you about our schedule that's upcoming at the cafe. However, Monday night we do have Dinah Davis who will be with us, and she was one of our guests 2 weeks ago on the Course in Miracles. And interestingly enough, the Course in Miracles blends the philosophies of the Eastern with the Western and psychology today. So that's what we'll be talking about Monday night. And then we have the wonderful Mary Glissendorf who will be teaching with us Tuesday night. And she had wanted to meet with us before the Wesak Festival, which is when the full moon of Taurus is in Scorpio, and the Wesak Festival is when the blessings of the Buddha are experienced. And before Mary goes back up north, she wanted to do a special program for us. So that will be Tuesday night at the Café du Monde. But this tonight at the Center of Eternal Light, and tomorrow afternoon at the Café du Monde, and then again Sunday night, the Swami Yogeshwarananda will be sharing information. Tomorrow he is doing Finding the Divine Within. And each of us has that divine fire that burns within, and acknowledging it and finding it is what we'll be talking about tomorrow. And I understand you've been talking about the ancient teachings of India with the people at the Center of Eternal Light. Is that what you have been discussing?
Yes.
Okay. One such a very important topic that you had wanted to do a little clarification on was the idea of meditation. One of the powerful aspects of the Eastern philosophies that have come to the West is this concept of meditation. And you said some of us have a misunderstanding of what that is. So what is meditation?
Yes. Meditation is to become God-aware.
God-aware is
God
the purpose.
aware.
Okay.
To be totally conscious of the divine, which is within and around. And that divinity in existence is something which cannot be thought of. It is something which is inconceivable in nature because it is formless, it exists everywhere, and it has no worldly attributes belonging to this universe. So therefore it is an inconceivable something, and it being an inconceivable something, there is no way of thinking of it. So the only way to think of the unthinkable, it is an unthinkable something. So the only way to think of the unthinkable is not to think of it or of anything else. By not thinking, you're thinking of it.
Okay.
And when do you not think? When you are in a state of silence, and in that state of silence, which is a mystic silence, you have become silent to the world around you, you have become silent to the outside world, you have become silent to the mental world, but at the same time you are totally conscious and alive there, and in that state of silence, you have now become silently aware of the divinity in existence within you and around you. This is a state of meditation, or the state of meditative awareness. And this is a state of, and it is maintained during a state of silence. So therefore, something very interesting comes out of it. In meditation, there is no mental activity. If there is mental activity, it is no more meditation, no more true meditation. So as such, the popular misconceptions which are being circulated in the world that you need a mantra to meditate is all not quite correct.
Okay.
In fact, the use of people have been using this mantra as a way to trap people to become disciples. The gurus are more interested to make disciples through a mantra rather than to tell people the truth of meditation. For meditation, you don't require a mantra. To be quiet, to be silent, there is a need for that mantra. Of course, a mantra can be a tool to help you to get into that state. But the use of a mantra by itself is not meditation.
So chanting mantras that precedes, it kind of gets a quieting effect that precedes the
That's
meditation.
right. And for that, you don't have to be initiated to take any mantra. Mantras are readily available so long as you get to know, and today it is known. In the olden days, it was hidden so that you can be manipulated. Today, it has become public knowledge and open knowledge. Therefore, you can freely take a mantra and use it for your own benefit, any mantra that you want, just to get into a mood. And once you have got into the mood, thereafter, learn to be quiet, be silent, and become silently aware.
And that is the
That is the state of meditation.
So it is experiential. It's something that you have to do. You
That's
can't
right.
be taught.
As you go more and more into it, you sink into your true nature, gradually subside all your worldly turbulence. The turbulence of your mental world subsides. And when it totally subsides, you're getting to the point towards nirvana or enlightenment.
Sometimes it is easier to do that in the quiet of the mountain or on the beach or in a natural setting to find that quiet space.
Yes, in fact, you can use the quietude or the serenity of an external environment to trigger you into the state of mystic silence.
And would you define the word mystic? I had one man who defined it for me, and I'm wondering if that is correct. A mystic is what?
A mystic is one who has gone within himself and has raised or elevated his level of consciousness and is able to get in tune with the reality of life, the truth of life, which is God nature.
Okay, because that's how the gentleman explained it to me. He said, I am a mystic. He said, I think I have the answers within myself, and therefore I can look within. Okay. One word that we needed to talk about was nirvana. I had thought that nirvana was the perfect state, and then I read that it was the perfect state almost of neutrality, and I wanted it to be blissful. And so you said, yes, nirvana is joyous and blissful, but we need to talk about that. Why do I have a little bit of confusion about nirvana?
There's a lot of confusion about many terms which are popularly used in the world, like nirvana, meditation, God, etc.
Yes.
Nirvana means the God state. The God state, I'm not using the word God, the God state, which is a little different. The God state means the state of the blessed state, which is whole, which is complete, which is perfect in every sense of the term. And in that state, which is the God state or the state of nirvana, two things are not there. One is the individual. The so-called individuality of a person is no more there. But that does not mean that the person is no more. But it's just the individuality, the human individuality is no more, but the true beingness of the person thereafter transpires. The true beingness of the person transpires in a state of nirvana. By losing one's individuality, one regains one's God state. God state, the perfected state. That perfected state is whole, complete, and full in every sense that it is complete existence. It is self-complete. And that is what is understood as nirvana. And in that state, there is bliss. There is bliss there. So bliss is one thing that everyone aspires for.
Well, the path to bliss is one of the books that I had read was The Divine Virtues. And that was where we are always working toward almost a state, though, again, of detachment, where we don't get angry and we don't get too upset, we don't get too happy, we don't get too sorrowful, and so forth. And we do earn merit, though, and I did want to mention that we had Mavis, who has been so meritorious in being the person who is able to transport you back and forth around so that we may have you here in Southwest Florida, and we're so pleased that we do. Our time is up, and I just want to remind people that if you do have some questions of the Swami Yogeshwarananda, you will have opportunities this weekend to visit either the Center of Eternal Light or the Cafe Du Monde on Fort Myers Beach. And we also look forward to you joining us in some of our other activities. I find so much pleasure in being able to bring to you some of the most interesting people in this area. When they do come and visit, we will be able to do that. Next week we will have one of our local gals who is an absolute expert in the field of crystals, and she will be talking with us about crystals, their healing and therapeutic values, and that's Cindy Bonert. So we look forward to next week too. And thank you so much for being with us today, and we thank the Swami Yogeshwarananda for being our guest.
All right.
Blessings.